Okay, perfect. So this class, we're gonna do a live storyboarding sessions, so we can implement the concepts I talked about in previous sessions. So for this, I chose the Guess Who's Back song from So Talks. I think it's like not very long, so this is why I choose this. So usually when you start storyboarding, the first thing that you need to do is to listen to the song at least once or twice, so you can actually get a feel for the song. So, but this time it's not going to be necessary since we're doing a kind of simplistic storyboard for this song. It's mainly going to be some background animations and particles. I will do hit object animations, and particles I will leave to the next session. So in this one, we're going to do like the main effects that are going to help to actually emphasize our lyrics that we're going to do in next sessions, hopefully, because I don't want to start talking about lyrics right now because it's kind of complicated. So for this, as you can see, the original map didn't have any bookmark. I'm on the extreme difficulty right now, but I did put on bookmarks to actually know and have a better visualizations of how I want to storyboard. By the way, is okay? Is sound good? Like, do you actually hear me? Hello. Please tell me the sound is okay. Black, please dis-moi que le son est ok. Le son. Ah, okay, okay. Perfect. All right, I'm coming back. So I'm gonna do a little breakdown of the ideas I had for this storyboard, then we can actually start. Before that, I have prepared also a bunch of sprites that I did put in the SP folder. So I did a blurred version of the background, a blurred circle, and not light blurred circle that we're going to use for the whatchamacallit, the hit objects animations. A pixel that's actually 2 pixels wide and not 1 pixel wide, but it's the only pixel sprite I had. And we're going to use this one a lot because basically using the scale function, the scale method, and the method, we can actually do a rectangle or a square of any in any color. This one is gonna be for the particles, and the V is the vignette, which I'm gonna add literally right now. So the first thing I'm gonna do is do, as I said, the vignette. So I'm gonna do new script. I'm gonna call it vignette. Hit OK. It should open the script in VS Code. So the vignette, as you can see, is just a black outline, like a sort of gradient kind of thing around the screen, and it really gives a nice moody and atmospheric feel to your story. Like basically anything that you're going to do, if you add the vignette over it, it's going to be usually better. There are some circumstances where the vignette isn't actually needed and it's better not to use it. But here, since our storyboard doesn't have a lot of elements in it, we're going to use a vignette. So as I said last time, to start storyboarding, you need to instantiate a layer. So storyboard layer, we call it vignette layer, lowercase. And yeah, I'm declaring the layer right here. And to instantiate the layer, you do vignette layer equals get layer, and you give it the name of the layer, so vignette. So now that we have actually our layer, so we can create the vignette sprite. So var sprite, let's directly vignette equals vignette layer dot create sprite, and we give it the path to vignette. So sb slash v.png, png. Okay. Now, for the vignette to actually show, because if you notice, the vignette is 1920 by 1080, but the dimensions of the storyboard are actually 857, I think, by 480. So it's only 480 resolution. So we're going to need to scale it down in order for it to be visible. So we're going to do vignette.scale, and the vignette will be visible from the first moment of the bitmap. So in order to scale a vignette according to, like in general, a sprite, when I want the sprite to actually fill the whole screen, at least horizontally like this. So I'm gonna do 480.0, which is the actual, I mean, the vertical amount of pixels. So here is 0, and here is actually 480. Divided by the length, the height of the actual sprite. So my sprite is 1080p, so it's 1080 pixels in height. So divided by 1080, and that's all you need to do in order to scale your vignette so it actually fits perfectly, at least horizontally. And since the ratio is the same, so it's gonna fit horizontally too. So I also want my vignette to be visible the whole duration of the storyboard. So from literally the first second to the last second. So I'm gonna do vignette.fade, and I'm gonna fade it from the 0 milliseconds to till the very end of the map. So for example, right here, it's kind of the end. And I'm going to give it start opacity 1 and end opacity 1. So it will keep a 1 opacity during the whole storyboard. And I think that's basically it for the vignette, and we can save this. It's going to update. Right now, since the screen is black and the vignette is actually black too, so we won't be able to see the vignette in action. But something we can do is go to layers. Since I want my vignette to be over anything else in the storyboard, so I can take my vignette and put it in the foreground layer. So it's above. We usually don't use the fail and pass layer since they're meant during gameplay. We don't do that a lot. And the overlay, we don't use it too because it displays over the elements of the map. So yeah. Now I'm gonna do some backgrounds. So I'm gonna create a new script. I'm gonna call it background manager. So we're gonna manage all our backgrounds right here. As before, we take a layer, we create a layer. So storyboard layer, we call it just layer because we're gonna use it a lot. So like yeah. Okay. We instantiate the layer, so layer equals get layer of background. Now we can actually start and create the fun stuff. Let's see. So here, in the beginning of the map, I don't want anything to happen here before this first. When the first bookmark hits, I'll have a background that starts fading in. So it's gonna start from 0 right here, and it's gonna fade in all the way till here. And here we're gonna have an impact. So what I'm gonna do is create a background, and the background will be this blurred background image. Okay, so we're going to do var blurred bg equals layer dot, not this one, layer dot create sprite of the path. So sb slash bg blur dot jpeg because it's in jpeg format. Then I want to scale. So as I said, the blurred background is also 1920 by 1080. So we're going to do the same thing as before. So we're going to scale it so it fills the whole screen. So scale from the start of the background. So usually with sprites, you don't want to use the 0 for the scale. So you want to scale them at the moment you're going to use them. So since we're going to use the background at this bookmark, I'm going to copy the timestamp at this bookmark and paste it here. So I'm going to scale it like before, 480.0 divided by 1080.0. We're doing the they are doubles and the division is actually a double. Because there's still going to be a whole division and a Euclidean division, and we don't want that. It's going to be scaled, and I want it to be visible from here all through here. So first of all, I'm gonna do background blur background dot fade. Let's say I actually want to fade it.
Je crois qu'il y a le micro qui marche pas trop.
Bon, merde.
C'est juste fait qu'une fois, une ou deux fois, mais juste légèrement.
I'm gonna touch on the configurable in the next script. Wait, let me just increase the sensibility. Just give me a sec. Okay, and I'm gonna move the microphone a bit forward.
Parfait.
Okay, nice. All right, should be good. God damn it, fuck. Okay, no one saw nothing. Okay. I want to fade it like from that time to, let's say, this. So here it's gonna be fully faded in. So I want from 1240 up to this time, and it's gonna start fading from 0 up to 0.33. So I don't want it to actually be opaque. I want it to be like somewhat darkened, and then it's gonna stay visible. Let's say short, just for now, so it stays visible. So it's gonna stay visible until this and here. Okay, so stay here and 0. Let's say 0 for now. All right. Okay. Good night. So now let's just see the result for a second. As you can see, like the background will start fading here. Yeah, and it will stay faded in up to this point, and it's gonna disappear. To this, I actually want to add some particles, and I want the particles to start at the same time as the background fade. The difference between the particles is they're gonna be visible all the way throughout the map. So I'm gonna add a new effect and import my custom particles, which I'm gonna explain in a second. And just configure it. So the start time is gonna be this time, and the end time is gonna be just after the KI. So like right here. And I'm gonna paste it here, and I need to actually give it a color. So I'm gonna go to the color pick and pick like a somewhat red color like here, and copy the hex code, go back, give it the color, and we should have some particles. You can see when the starts, you also have some particles that start with it. But I want to change these particles because right now I feel like they're a bit too opaque. So I'm going to edit my script, and I'm going to take the opportunity to actually explain a bit how this works. So usually scripts are designed to be reusable. So we want use the configurable tag in order to have like a sort of variable that we can actually configure inside Storybrew. So button, these are the configurables. So for example, my start time, my end time, the color, and the random seed is always there, which is going to determine the seed of the random that's going to be used in here. So here how the particle works is I usually enter in a double loop. This is because I want to have 5 waves of particles. So here I'm doing like t equals start time. It's a for loop. I start with start time. I finish at start time plus 5,000, and I add 1,000, which is 1 second each time. So you maybe can see it right here, but the particles are generated in waves, and each wave is 1 second away from the other. So here I'm doing a second loop, which is a counter for the particles. So here I stop my loop when the I, which is basically my counter, is above the particle amount. The particle amount, which is here, and which I can actually make as a configurable if I wanted to. Here I'm just randomizing the position, random x equals random, and it will randomize a number between -100 and 540, which is actually the limit for storyboard. So here is 547.54, and here is -107, and 0 is about here, like on the x-axis. I'm randomizing the position, and I'm randomizing an offset for the time because I don't want the particles to be generated at the same time. Like I don't randomize this, it's gonna always be generated at t. I want to have a little random here. I give it a sprite, a color, actually, and then I'm using a loop, and this is solely for the purpose of optimization. But you can decide to not use this one. So basically, the particles, the behavior of the particles, as you can see, they start fading in, like they fade in, and the duration of the fade is 1 second from 0 to 1. Then I scale them to from 0 to the scale that is actually randomized. So I randomize the scale. Then they fade back and they scale down, so which is the opposite of these two commands. And in the fading and the scaling, I'm also moving it from 2 random positions to, I mean, random x and a random y to another random x and a random y. So it's the particles are actually moving and they are not static. Okay, that's it. And I actually have 2 layers of particles. I have these small ones and I have the bigger ones. What I want to do is actually decrease the opacity. So let's do 0.75 and 0.75 here, and I'm going to do the same. Here they already faded down a bit, so 0.2 maximum. Okay, which is nice. If you don't understand fully how this particular script works, it's fine. It's a bit advanced. So, like some scripts are already existent. So you can, for example, ask someone to make you or give you an already existing scripts for particles or for a specific effect, and you can just configure it and use it. So inside the actual path to particles, so you need to have the c.png sprite and you need to have the pl.png sprite inside that. You can basically just use the particle scripts and it should work. Okay, now that we have the base, so let's see. So we need to actually know that we're gonna add lyrics here. So it's fine if our storyboard feels a bit empty. I mean, like it's nice, it looks nice, but it's a bit empty. It lacks what we call a focal point, and the focal point is gonna be the lyrics. So we're gonna add the lyrics in next session. Hopefully, I think. Let me just check. Okay, nothing important there. Nothing important here. Welcome back. Okay, anyway, let's say at this point. So here, at this point, like at this bookmark, I actually want to have an impact. And the impact is going to be something super simple. I'm just going to take my blurred background, and instead of fading it back to 1, to 0, I mean, I'm going to take this, and I want to start fading from here to the same timestamp, but like plus like 500, and fade it above this value. So it looks like a flash. So let's say 0.62 and back to 0.4, let's say. Okay. And then in order to, so we continue to see the sprite, I'm going to keep it here. So background, dot fade, and let's say I fade it back to 0 at this point. Okay, so if we see the result, here what's going to happen, it's going to, yeah, it looks like a flash. But a cooler way of doing this, and that will actually emphasize, this is why I did put the bookmarks between these two. So it kind of, when you listen to the music, it's, how can I say this? Like it's going down a bit, then it's restarting again as the next section. So what I will do is from this point up to this point, I'm going to fade the background back to black. Then when the flash will hit, since the background is actually not visible, it's going to hit like harder. So it's going to be super easy. So just before I'm doing this kind of flash thingy here, I'm going to do blurred background dot fade. That bookmark I wanted up to this point, and I'm going to fade it from 0.33, which is the actual fade at that point, and back to 0. And I'm going to do this. So when you check the actual result, it should look much better. See? So since we faded, the impact of the flash is there. Is actually like, it hits harder. So in this section, okay, so in this section, in Storyboard, just like in mapping, you actually need to have a sort of progression in your animation or in your ideas. So just like in mapping, you map the sections that are more intense, you map them more intensively. So in storyboards, in sections where you have more intense sounds, you actually need to add more effects to actually represent those sounds. So the add here is just going to be a basic hit object. So the hit object highlight is actually a base script of Storyboard. So I can just script hit object highlight and actually configure it. So we're going to use this sprite. So it's c outline.png, which I'm calling to c.png. Yeah, right here. Okay. And actually, it already says. So you can see, but it's not actually really good. So first, I'm gonna reduce the scale. So I'm gonna do 0.45. And I'm gonna restrict because the base is, it highlights like all the way through the map, but I want to highlight only this. So start time is gonna be here, and end time, I actually want it here. Okay. So I want it to highlight all the way through this. So here we have highlight. The animation of the highlight isn't actually really nice. So what I want to do is edit the script. So I give it a custom animation. So what the hit object highlight script actually does, it's gonna do a for each, which is just basically just like the for loop for every hit object in the bitmap, which is like either circle, slider, or spinner. It's gonna create a sprite and do some methods, some functions, some animations on the sprite. So first of all, I'm gonna change this color because I don't want it to have the color of the hit object. So right now it's taking its color from the hit object color, like the colors of the bitmap. But I don't want to do that. I actually want to have like my custom color. So maybe let's take this. Let's go back to our original color. So maybe this one. I'm gonna copy the RGB code and go back. So instead of having hit object dot color, I'm just gonna do new color for, and I'm gonna paste and add the alpha channel. So if you have this problem right here, just do control plus point and using authenticated graphics, because color is a class from this package. So you need to import authenticated graphics to actually use it. Okay, so if we save this, we're gonna notice that all the sprites are gonna be colored, which is like this kind of cool red rose kind of thing. What I want to do actually is change the scale animation. So for now, it scales from the sprite scale all the way to 0.2 times the sprite scale. So it's scaling down, but I wanted to do the contrary. So I want to scale up. So I'm going to do 1.2 sprite scale. And I'm going to change the easing, and don't worry about the easing for now, but it's going to be out circ, which is going to be a better feeling overall. So now if we check it again, now the animation looks something like. Okay, pretty nice, but the fade duration is too slow, so I'm gonna increase to this, for example. Okay, and as you can see here, it has a special animation for the sliders, but I don't actually want it to have this animation for the sliders. So this whole section that actually talks about sliders, I'm gonna just remove it because we don't want. Okay. Give me a second. Okay, now we basically storyboard up to this point. And here you can see the effect of the vignette. Here, like it's darker on the edges. So even on the hit object highlight and the particles are darker on the edges. So right now, as I said, the storyboard has a sort of progression. You need to have progression in your storyboard. So here, we need to add something. And now, just before that, we've been using the blurred background, but now I want to introduce the actual background of the bitmap. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this same trick we did here. So we fade, and then we have an impact. So here we're going to start fading like. Yeah. Here we have a sort of downward synth noise kind of thingy. Yeah. So we're gonna start fading from opacity back to black here, and we're gonna introduce another sprite, which is the base background of the image, of the bitmap, I mean. So we go back to our background manager, and we do the same blurred background fade. So from this time, I just hit Control C to copy the timestamp, and I paste it here, and when it and just here, and I'm going from 0.4 to 0. And since I'm doing this, which means it's going to be 0 at this point, so I can actually remove this line. We don't use it anymore. Now, for the impact, we're going to make another sprite. So var background, actual background equals layer dot create sprite, and we give it the path to the actual sprite of the background. So here I have just background.jpg. And we basically do the same thing for this. We scale it, but we apply the dot scale to the actual background. And we scale it at the time we want to use it. Since we want to use it at this time, we scale it at this time. Okay. And we do the same flash thingy like this. We fade it from a higher opacity back to its normal opacity. So here we do background.fade here, and this time plus, let's say 620. So from 0.7 up back to 0.32. Nice. And I want the background to stay visible up to this point. Okay, yeah, up to this point, let's say. So at this point, I'm going to background.fade. At this point, I want to go back to 0. Okay, check the result. Okay, really nice, but we can actually do much better. So to make this impact hit harder, we can make it so the picture is initially like zoomed out more, and it's gonna get like zoomed down as the bitmap goes. So it's a pretty simple effect. So we just change the scale. So we start from this moment all the way through this moment. So we tell it. From here to here, I actually want to scale it from, let's say, 560 up to 480.2 divided by 1080. Okay, and we're gonna add some easing to this, so it actually looks better. Let's be easing, and I'm gonna explain now what the easing is. So let's say out expo. Maybe out expo is better. Okay, pretty nice. So it starts like very zoomed out right here. Yeah, it's a simple effect. So as you can see, like the scaling of the image isn't actually linear. So here it scales out a ton, and here it almost doesn't change the scale. This is because we've used the OSP easing.out expo. If you want to actually get an idea of how easings look, you can just go to the website easing.net. This one. Yeah, this one. Easings with a S, so it's plural. Yeah. So you just check these animations. So yeah, the ball on the side is actually eased with this easing. and the names are actually the same. So is out cube, so I can just like literally take this easing. So I go here, do out cube. So they're all available in the OSP easing class. So I'm gonna keep the out expo. Now, right here. So here, what I want to happen is actually introduce another concept for this storyboard, which is gonna be black bars. So black bars are usually used in cinema. They're not really used, like they're mandatory. So since the films are actually being shooted at another ratio, 21:9, for example. But here we can use actual black bars to lead the attention and the focus of the person who's gonna look at the storyboard to a certain element. So just to remember that we're gonna have lyrics right here. So in order to do that, I want to actually force this part to be like a little bit more focused on the lyrics. So what I'm gonna do is make one black bar go from here all the way like to this point, and another black bar from the bottom to this point, and we're gonna have the text right here. So it's gonna be really much focused on the text. And at this point, I'm gonna do a little animation on these triplets. Okay, so let's start. I'm gonna create a new script. I'm gonna call black bars. Okay. It's gonna open the script. Yeah, by the way, questions. Do you actually have a question right now before I move on to this script?
Can you make easings with self? I mean, without this other with. I mean, like, can you make them yourself? I don't know if there
No,
exists editors.
actually,
Or
no, no. So the easings are actually a base feature of the editor, but you can't like actually take a function and make it the easing that you want. So you have like in the OSB code, the easings are numbered. The easings are numbered from 1 to 15, which are basically these easings. I mean, there are a lot more here, but yeah, that's it. Like you don't have more options, but usually these options actually work well, so they're nice.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna move on and I'm gonna show you the actual utility of the pixel sprite because we're gonna use it a lot. So as always, I'm gonna start with a storyboard layer. So I'm gonna call it bar layer. And I'm gonna instantiate my layer. So bar layer equals, and that's actually freezing. Bar layer, get layer, not get bitmap, get layer, and we're gonna call it bars. I'm gonna need two sprites for the two bars. So let's see the top bar. So var top bar equals bar layer dot create sprite, and we get the path to the pixel. So sp slash px dot png. I think it's how it's called. No, pixel dot png. So now I want to scale my bar. So I'm gonna do top bar dot scale and scale vectorial actually. So let's see. I want to scale it at the time I want to use it. So I'm gonna scale it here. So on the x-axis, I actually want it to be really big, so it fills up the whole screen. So I'm gonna say like 500. So it's going to be basically 1,000 pixels, which is more than the 850. I don't remember, but like it's basically 860, the width of the editor. And on the y-axis, I don't want it to be that big, so I'm just going to do like 200. Also, here I'm going to change the origin, and I'm going to explain why in a second. So to change the origin, so OSP origin dot bottom center, and I'm going to explain why in a second. I want my top bar to be black, so I'm going to say top bar dot color, and at this time I want to be color dot black. So since the actual sprite is white, we need to give it a color. Before we continue with this, I want to do my background here, so we can actually see the black bars over. So here, I want to go back to the background of the beginning, so not this one. I'm going to group this. And since this sprite have been inactive for this duration, it's actually better to create another sprite. Because if you don't create another sprite, it's going to be inactive here, but still loaded in the memory. So here, since it's been inactive for like 15 seconds, it's better to actually create another sprite. So here in my background manager, I'm just this and put it here and change the name. So background blurred to, I'm going to copy it here, paste it here, and here. So we need to change the timestamps. So I actually wanted to fade it right here. So I'm going to scale it here and fade it from here to, let's say, here, to this point, and it's going to be 0.33. So it's going to have the same opacity, maybe a little more, say 56. So it's actually more visible to have like some contrast. Here it's going to be more visible than this section. Let me save this, and we're going back to our black bars. So I want my black bar to like appear from the top, like from here, it's going to go back to this point, maybe. So I'm going to take my top bar dot move. So let's see, from this point to the same, but the duration of the movement. So it's going to be like, it's going to take, let's see, 420 seconds. And it's going to move from new vector 2 of 320, which is actually the center of my storyboard in the x-axis. So in the x-axis, the center is here, and the coordinates is 320. You can press Alt to basically see here, down here, the coordinates of your cursor inside the storyboard. So 320, but from the top, so here it's going to be 0 in the y-axis. So let's say 0, and I'm going to move it up to new vector 2 of always 320, but I want to be like 220. So 220 is about around here. So because the center of the storyboard in the y-axis is actually 240. So we have 0, 240, and 480. So 240 is around here. I want to give it like some space left, and you're going to see why in just a minute. 20 and semicolon at the end, and I'm going to use easing right here too, so it looks actually a bit better. So OSP easing dot out expo, because out expo is the fastest of the out easings. So let's see how the effect is. So yeah, like this. It actually disappears because it becomes like the sprite isn't used anymore after this duration. So we need to say that it's going to be visible up until this point. So I'm gonna say top bar dot fade from the start point of my animations all the way up to this point. I'm just gonna copy, and it's gonna be visible 1, 1. So it's gonna be fully opaque. Okay, now that we did the top bar, I'm gonna do a copy paste and call this bottom bar, and we're just gonna reverse some stuff. It's gonna be, yeah, so instead of having bottom center, it's top center. And as I said, I'm gonna explain why in just a second. Here the scale is the same, the color is the same, but instead of having from 420 0, we have from 320 480 up to 260. So it's like 20 pixels above and 20 pixels below the center of the storyboard, and it's the same. So the result will go something like this. Okay, and we're gonna have the text here. So it's gonna keep us keeps the focus on the text actually. Okay, nice. So as I said, I'm gonna explain why I use the OSP origin top center. And for that, I'm gonna take literally the best explanation tool ever for this. So let's say our sprite is actually a rectangle and it is a black one. So the origin of a sprite is usually in the middle. So sec here, this one in the middle. Yeah, so it's in the middle. But you actually have more than one choice to the origin of the sprite. So if it's in the middle, if for example I want to actually rotate it, it's gonna rotate around the middle. So as if you had like your finger on a sheet of paper and you rotate it. So if you move my thing, my origin to the bottom, so you're gonna move according to the bottom of the sheet and you're gonna rotate around the bottom of the sheet. So the fact that I have my anchor point or origin on the bottom and I place my sprite here on the top, this means that like everything on top of the sprite is not gonna be visible. It's like as if I'm pulling down my rectangle from below. So right here. So if I did like not bottom center, I just do center. It's just not gonna work. It's gonna be like fully like this. So here it really already starts from here because it's pulling the sprite from this position and not this position. It may be confusing at first, but like you learn to actually work with this. It's really easy. Okay. And we will have the lyrics right here. And now we need to like go out from this effect at some point. And we're gonna go out. At the moment, we don't want the focus to be on the lyrics anymore. So here we have a cool transition. So here you have like these 1/3 snare kind of sounds. So one concept that we can actually do is gradually move these up as the song goes with the 1/3. So oh really? Sorry, I did the okay here. So here you have the 1/3. Because here it's like a cool section with the lyrics, so we're gonna do the vocal on the lyrics, the focus. I'm gonna diminish it back. Wait, really? Does everyone have this problem? Like you can't hear the song at all. Wait, really? Damn. Okay, fuck. How do I fix this? Okay. Oh, yeah. I don't want to switch to actual Storyboard because you won't be able to see the code. Okay. So anyway, there is a cool one third transition right here. You know the song. It's like guess who's back. So there is this cool transition. So what I'm gonna do is basically push these black bars up and down as the song goes. So I'm gonna switch my snap divisor to one third. And for example, at this point, it's at this position, and at this position, I want to push it a little bit up. So what I'm gonna do is do my bar dot fade. No, move. So at this point, I want to move it to new vector 2. I still keep the 320, and let's see. So I'm gonna push it to 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're gonna take 220 divided by 6. So it's gonna be like 36. Okay. So it's 220 minus 1 times 36.66. F is because like we need to have them as floats. Okay. And we're gonna do the same. We copy paste this one a bunch of times. And we change the timestamp. So here, at this point, this one, this, and the last one is just basically gonna be 0. And I'm gonna increase this one all the way. So 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's see the result. So yeah, here it actually moves. But in order to make this one smoother, instead of telling it just to like jump to that position, we can say from this time to this time, for example. So to move from this position. So there's a little bit of this in storyboarding. Like those moments when you actually need to copy paste like your code 20 times and like edit it like each time. And we're gonna add some easing to it too. So must be easing that outside. Outside is good. Okay, so instead of having this one, we're gonna have this one. So I'm gonna do a little bit more copying. But usually is worth it because the effect is usually better. No, not like this. Here. Okay, nice. So from here to here. and here. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And here 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And if there are no mistakes, it should actually be a lot smoother. Okay, yeah, but I still want to have the choppy kind of thing. So instead of using this one outside, I'm gonna use out export. So it's still like choppy, but a little bit smoother. Okay, nice. And we're gonna copy this one and paste it to actually apply it to the bottom bar. Yeah. And instead of having 220, we're gonna have 260 plus. And here, basically the same thing, 260 plus. Okay, nice. And if we check the result, okay, it's actually nice. So it's actually a bit of transition back. And here, since the song actually goes back to being a little bit chiller, I decided like, this very point to end the animation like the hit object highlight. And here we're gonna have only lyrics and the particles too. Okay. Yeah, could have done that, but I guess it's fine. Yeah, it actually has both doubles and floats, but I'm usually using doubles because float you can store it in a double, but not the other way around. No, actually not. Like you can take this one and wait and paste it above, and it's still gonna be the same result. The thing is, you have to actually make your commands not overlap with each other, because else you'll have overlapping commands which actually bugs the storyboard and it's not gonna display properly. So if my end time here is this, I mean for like the movement, for example, if I finish this movement at this time, I need to start the movement at the same time or above, because else it's going to be like a problem with the overlapping commands. So if I do, for example, 27, 5, 19, 37, and I save, it's going to show me right here. Just a not crashing, by the way. Yeah, it's going to show me that I have overlapped command right here. So you need to watch for these. Okay. You actually wrote a lot. Yes, you can actually do this. So background.fade. So this means it's going to fade from the 10th milliseconds to the 20th milliseconds, from 0.4 to 0.5. And this from 0 to 10 from 0.6 opacity. Yeah, I'm too lazy to do loops. Nah. I mean, the function is actually like, would be a bunch of lines, but yeah, anyway, this is the way usually, because it's not really, you're not actually creating software, it's more like scripting, so it's fine to do that. Yeah, not only bugs, but actually like in Storybrew, it actually handles the overlapped commands. But in in the editor, it's actually not going to display properly at all. Like you'll have choppy animations, some sprites are not going to be visible at all. Like it's a huge mess. Okay, any other questions? Because I think I talked a lot. It's about like 1 hour since we started. So I'm gonna end it right here. If there aren't any questions, I'm probably gonna finish these small animations for the storyboard. So next time we're gonna be able to work on lyrics. Yeah, I will send you like the whole OSP project. Yeah, no problem. Okay. Was the course actually all right? Like, was the session actually good? Like, did you understand at least a little bit of what I'm saying? Oh, really? Okay, nice. I don't know. Usually, when I just close VS Code and when I open another project, like it does open another project and not open the previous one I was working on. Damn. Imagine closing projects from terminals. Anyway, I'm gonna save this. If there aren't any questions, I'm not gonna hold you anymore. Thanks for coming. Blacky, tu peux arrêter d'enregistrer maintenant.